Hi everyone, it's Paul from This Designer, and today I'm going to talk about the best printer for a graphic design student. So as you can probably tell, this is the printer that I'm actually talking about. It's a Canon Pro 100. I've been using it for a little under 4 years now, and I've just finished my degree in graphic design. I'm going to go over some of the reasons as to why. First of all, I think you should be buying a printer for home use if you are going to be doing a degree in graphic design, and also why I recommend this one, but there are other ones that you can use as well that have the similar kind of features. First of all, reasons why you should be using your own printer at home. What I quickly learnt at university was that towards deadline, the queues to use printers gets very big very quickly. In our first year, we didn't really have a good system in university where it eventually got turned into a ticket system, which was kind of helpful. You got your ticket, you could go away, and then when your ticket number was ready, I think you got a text message, or you could just keep on checking on the screen to see where your number was in the queue. In the first year, they didn't have any of that, and it was just first come, first serve. And what ended up happening a lot of the times is people would literally be getting there 8 o'clock in the morning, queuing up. You know, the queues would be like 50 people and ready at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you'd probably get your stuff printed at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If you literally didn't turn up at 8 o'clock in the morning, you'd very much likely not get your work printed. So it was a really bad system, and it did annoy a lot of people. And after my first project in uni, after experiencing that headache, I decided it was time to buy my own printer and see if I can do some stuff at home. That'd be the first thing. And also, if you are in London, for instance, print shops, towards deadlines, they're going to be busy everywhere. I knew students at my uni who queued up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to be in the queue to get their stuff printed. So getting a printer at home really does save a lot of trouble. Number two is the price of printing. Printing at uni and also printing in print shops can be quite expensive, and if you use like refillable cartridges, and if you buy your own paper, if you buy it in bulk, or if you get second-hand paper from print shops and stuff like that, other ex-students who don't need the paper anymore, like I've kind of ended up with myself, a lot of paper I'm not really probably going to use, you can get hold of some cheap paper. Another reason is that, probably the most important really, is that it allows you to be a better designer, I feel, at uni. I think it allows you to experiment much more because you don't have to go into uni to print something off. You can do it then and there, and when you are doing graphic design, actually printing out stuff and seeing stuff at the right scale, in the right format, it really does help, as opposed to just seeing it on your laptop screen all the time. So next I want to talk about just some features that you should be looking out for, and specifically the Canon Pro 100 obviously has them all. First of all, it would be to look for an A3 printer. This Canon Pro prints A3+, so that's good enough for pretty much most of the work that you're going to be doing when it comes to booklets and project booklets like this. These are a few examples of the stuff that I've actually printed on this printer. Being able to print A3 basically allows you to do full bleed stuff. So for instance, if I had an A4 printer, I could not print this cover here in full bleed. It also allows you, having A3, it really allows you to experiment with different formats, and you're not just sticking with your typical A4 page. You can go square, or you could go rectangular. You could go really small and thin kind of a brochure or booklet. And it really does help you just experiment with different layouts and stuff like that. So being able to print A3 is very handy. And also, if you are doing posters, which you probably will if you're studying graphic design, being able to print A3 means that, well, first of all, you can print in A3, so it's double the size of A4. But what it allows you to do as well, and it allows you to do it much easier, is it allows you to tile things. So you could print 4 A3s, and you've got a A1 size sheet. You can tile it a bit more. You can do really big kind of layouts. What I did, I kind of ended up printing like 20 sheets of paper for a bit of a data design that I was doing. I really wanted to see it blown up, and just being able to print A3 just made it much easier and quicker instead of printing out loads and loads of A4 sheets of paper. So that was quite handy. Another thing is the quality of this printer is really good. So a lot of times when I was handing in my work, and students look through each other's work when you hand it in, a lot of people were asking me whereabouts I got this printed, and they were really surprised when I said I just printed it at home on my printer. The quality is really good. I think it is probably better quality than the printers that we had at uni, which was like a big Xerox machine, which is a laser printer. And I'll talk about the differences between inkjet and laser in a minute. But yeah, the quality is really good, especially if you're going to be doing photography. I like doing medium format photography, I like doing analog photography. Being able to print black and white images is really nice, and with this 8-color inkjet system, and it's got 4 of the inkjets are kind of dedicated to black. So it does a really good job at rendering shadows, and it's really good at black and white photography. For me personally, I really don't like typing a lot of stuff. A lot of the way I document my work is through photos and videos. So it made a lot of sense for me to get a printer that was really good at reproducing those photos. If you look through a lot of my project books, a lot of it is images, big images, kind of detailing the work, my thought processes, and then just little tiny captions. And that's just how I worked. So I really wanted something that was good at printing photos. Now let's talk about the differences between inkjet and laser. I personally didn't really like the output of the laser printer at uni. It's one of the reasons why I decided to get an inkjet. So with a laser printer, it will kind of lay down the ink on top of the page, and it will have a certain shine to it. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the shiny, reflective properties of printing it on a laser, especially for photographs. I just didn't really like it. I really liked kind of experimenting with different papers and textures and colors. And I just felt an inkjet, when it printed the image or the text onto the page, it just kind of blended in a little bit more with the characteristics of the page. It soaks into the paper. It doesn't kind of sit on top of it, which I liked, but it does give a certain, it gives like a matte finish to your images. So your images are not going to be as good as printing on, say, some glossy paper, for instance. But I quite liked that. It just felt more of a natural kind of print. So another thing where lasers beat inkjets is in the speed. I was up many hours trying to get this thing to print. It does print slow if you are doing it in high quality. Laser, you can churn out laser pages much quicker. So that is something to think about. But you've got the benefit of you've got this in your own home. So you don't have to go out and queue up. You can really just print it as and when you want. Also, another thing with inkjet is they're not really good at kind of laying out pages when you're doing booklets. And also you've got limitations to the page sizes that you can use when you're doing booklet printing. A lot of the time, if I was printing, say, printing on an A3 sheet and I was going to get it trimmed at uni, I couldn't print it through, the print booklet option with Canon. I literally had to export them all to Photoshop, and then I'd have to print them manually that way. It just really was annoying for stuff like that. So that's where it takes a little bit longer. But the alignment is really good when you are printing on both sides of the page. If you get the printer marks printed on your page, you can literally hold it up to the light and they are near enough bang on. So the alignment is really good for this. Something that you need to be careful about with printing on inkjets is obviously the amount of ink that you're laying down on the page. If you are printing double-sided and you are printing, say you're printing a photo on each side of the page, if you've got them quality settings to high quality, and it's going to lay down a lot of ink, and that can cause the page to ripple slightly as the page is kind of expanding, as it's absorbing more ink. So you have to be careful of what you're printing. As I said, laser, it lays it down on top, so you don't have those problems. But you just got to be a little bit careful, especially when you're printing. Say you want kind of a page of a black page. You want to print all black and you want the text to be white, for instance. Pages like that are going to be, you need to make sure you've got probably like 200 or above GSM paper. If you start printing on 120, it's going to quickly fall apart if you're printing such heavy colours on both sides of the page. So that's something you need to be careful about, and it can sometimes kind of hold back your designs and your layouts, for instance. Moving on to the type of papers that you can use on an inkjet. With inkjet, you know that you need inkjet paper. So this is paper that has got a inkjet formula sprayed on top of it, so the ink doesn't kind of just soak into the paper, and you get more, you get better contrast with kind of glossy paper because it's got that gloss layer on top of it. You can print with papers that are not inkjet papers, as I have experimented plenty of times. So the GF Smith Colour Plan series, for instance, is not an inkjet paper, but you can actually print very nicely on it. It actually comes out quite nicely for pictures and things like that. I've also printed on a lot of recycled papers, and they come out really nicely. It's all about experimenting. Some pages you will print out on an inkjet and it will look terrible. It will bleed. You won't get crisp lines on your letters or anything like that. Some it will actually hold out quite nicely. So it's really about, you're gonna have to experiment. So do what I did. If you're in the UK, for instance, go on GF Smith. You can order loads and loads of samples, different colours, different weights, and just print test pages of kind of sample text and some images. It's the best way to do it. If you are printing double-sided, which you probably will be if you're doing like a booklet, for instance, if you're printing kind of a booklet like that, 2 sides, you can't really use thin paper. A lot of the pages that I used in here was a brochure inkjet paper. So I think it's 130 or 140 GSM, and that's pretty much the finish that I could go and print both sides. The paper was actually formulated to be used in an inkjet, so it didn't actually soak into the paper. It was actually a very nice kind of crisp, clean finish to it. But yeah, if you're printing like 100 GSM, like really thin paper, say you want like a newspaper style, it's just not going to happen on an inkjet. It's going to just completely crinkle up the paper as it soaks in all of the ink. So there are some limitations to it, but printing, I would say from 130 would be your absolute lowest. You can go all the way up to 300. I mean, I've printed, so for instance this is a thick, card cover, and this was printed on this printer. So this is kind of a texture of some of the concrete that I made. And as you could see, because this isn't an A4 printer, I was able to print full bleed, so I could actually have the image going around the spine, as you can see there. I can't really fold it out, but you can kind of see it. It's the texture. So that's what an A3 printer allows you to do. It allows you to do things like that. Let's talk about the price. I got this about just under 4 years ago from eBay, second hand. I paid £220 for it. I think they're even lower now in prices because this is getting on a few years old now, this model. It's all you're ever gonna need. You don't need to get a newer version. This will do you, and it's got everything that you'll need. It's got Wi-Fi as well, so if you are a student and you're in kind of a small dorm or you're in a one-bedroom apartment, space is really important. I really liked the Wi-Fi function because I could put this, in the corner of my room underneath a closet or something like that, and I could just pull it out, print it. I didn't have to kind of lug it over to my laptop and my computer to print stuff. So you can kind of put it out of the way and you can just send it to the printer, which is really a nice feature actually, having that Wi-Fi. Yeah, so the price is pretty cheap. I mean, you can probably get one, I reckon, for under £200 now. If you can't find the Canon Pro 100, the Epson equivalent of this is the Epson 1400 or 1500. One of those. I think they have 6 to 8 colors, and they're an A3 plus printer. So it's pretty much the same. This Canon has 8 colors. As said, 4 of them are for black and white, so it's really nice for black and white photography. But if you've got 6 or 8 colors in your printer, you're going to get pretty good results. I wouldn't go with a 4-color printer. I don't think the output is going to be anywhere as good as, obviously 8 colors, for instance. And with the cartridges, as I said, one of the reasons why I bought this was the fact that I could use refillable. And just to give you an idea, these are some of the refillable cartridges. Sorry, so these are some of the refillable colors that I've got. Now, I bought these refillables probably 3.5 years ago. As soon as I got the printer and I realized the price of the cartridges for Canon's own version, which is like £100 plus for 8-color cartridge. You can buy bottles of the ink and you can buy refillable cartridges and you can just fill it up when you go. Now, I've been printing heavily at uni. All of my work, all of this kind of stuff is printed on this printer. And I am probably, on some of these, I'm just over halfway. On the black, I am probably 3/4 of the way down. But the rest, I've probably got another good 2-3 years of printing with these bottles. That is amazing value. I think I got this set for 8 colors with the refillable cartridges. I got it for, I think, $150. I'll put a link to some options that you can get, but it will save you so much money, trust me. If you're going to be buying a printer to use at home, make sure that it does have some sort of refillable cartridge system. So you can just look on Amazon, you can look on eBay, type in the model number that you want and make sure that you do have either refillable cartridges or you've got a CISS system. CISS stands for Continuous Ink Supply System, I think. And basically it is just a little bit different from refillable cartridges. You literally have a little pot here of the inks and you have tubes going into the cartridges, so it's a constant feed. Whereas this, when it runs out, I have to refill them with syringes. It does get a little bit messy, but I'm gonna create a video next just to show you exactly what I do to refill my cartridges, because honestly, it has been probably the biggest money-saving thing I've bought in a very long time. I don't know how many cartridges I would have gone through if I didn't have this system, and I don't know how much money that would have cost me. I think I would estimate I would have spent probably $600+ on cartridges if I did it just through buying third party. If I bought Canon's own versions, which are £100+ for a set, I probably would have spent in the thousands. So I hope that gives you some sort of insight if you are thinking about buying a printer. Let's just quickly recap through some of the things that you should look out for. First of all, make sure that the printer that you buy allows you to use any sort of refillable system, because it will save you a ton of money. That is probably the most important. Second most important is that it prints A3, because it just allows you to experiment a lot more with formats and layouts, and it allows you to do full bleed stuff like you can see in the background here. Wi-Fi is a nice touch. It means that you can obviously put the printer over in the corner and you don't need it right next to your desk. If you're like me, I have no room on my desk to attach my printer if it needed to be attached by USB. So Wi-Fi is very, very handy. And that is really about it. As I said, the Canon Pro 100 or the Epson 1400 or 1500 are probably the two most common A3 printers that you will see graphic designers using at home. And rightly so, because they are very, very good printers, and their photo quality is equal to a lab print. If you was getting some photos printed, you will not need a higher quality printer than this, most likely. So if you do have any other questions, please feel free to ask. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will catch you later.